You know, some stories aren't really about heroes or villains. They're about places. Places where something went deeply, fundamentally wrong. We're going to look at an account of something that really defies description, a kind of horror that slips right through the cracks of our language.
It all begins not with some big event, but with a feeling, a warning that's just baked into the landscape itself. It sets a scene for a place that feels ancient, isolated, totally untouched by the modern world, a place where things can just fester, unseen.
And the way we even hear this story is through an outsider, a surveyor who just stumbled upon this wound in the world that never quite healed.
So, he's a man of science, right? A surveyor sent to map out land for a new reservoir that's going to serve the city of Arkham. But his tools, his charts, they can't explain what he finds. It's this 5-acre patch of gray, brittle dust where literally nothing lives. The locals just call it the Blasted Heath, and they stay far, far away. Only one old man, Amy Pierce, is willing to talk about it, because he remembers everything.
And so Amy takes us back, decades back, to a simple farm owned by a fella named Gardner, long before the land itself was poisoned.
The whole mess started with a meteorite. It just fell out of the sky one day and landed right next to the family's well. But this was no ordinary space rock. It was weirdly soft, it seemed to shrink a little every day, and it never, ever cooled down.
Professors from the local Miskatonic University came out to study it, of course, but every test they ran came back with impossible results. The material didn't react to solvents, it defied all known properties of matter. It was alien, and not just from another planet, but maybe from another reality entirely.
And this is the real heart of the mystery. When the scientists analyzed the light it gave off, they saw something that just wasn't on any chart. A color with no name, no classification. It was so completely new, they could only call it a color because they had no other word for it.
Eventually, the meteorite just vanished. But it left something behind. Not a crater, but a presence, an influence that started to seep into the land, kicking off this quiet, creeping tragedy.
See, the decay was gradual. At first, it even seemed like a blessing. They had this massive harvest, with fruits and vegetables of unnatural size. But they were all bitter, totally inedible. The next year, the plant started to twist into strange shapes, and the farm animals were born with these unsettling deformities. Soon enough, the blight reached the family itself. Mrs. Gardner lost her mind. Her sons were just drawn to the well, and then they were gone. And in the end, Nahum himself turned gray and brittle until he just crumbled away.
Amy Pierce, their neighbor, he was the only one who kept visiting, watching in absolute horror as his friends were just consumed. He could see that this wasn't some evil creature with a grand plan. It was more like a chemical spill on a cosmic scale. A slow, indifferent poisoning that started in the well water and just spread to everything it touched.
And that brings up the central question of the whole story, and really of an entire genre of fiction it helped create. What was this thing? I mean, was it alive? Was it some kind of radiation with bizarre properties? A sort of intelligent virus? The fact that you can't answer that question, that you can't even begin to categorize the threat, that's where the real horror is.
And this really gets to the core of what we call cosmic horror. See, the terror doesn't come from a monster that wants to eat you. It comes from that deep down, chilling realization that the universe is filled with forces that aren't hostile. They're just indifferent. They're so vast and so alien that human life, our morality, our sanity, it's all completely irrelevant to them.
That's what makes it so different from your typical monster. A vampire wants your blood. A werewolf has a weakness. They have motives and rules we can understand. But how do you fight a color? How do you reason with an environmental blight that is just existing? You can't. It's operating on a level of reality we are not equipped to deal with.
So, Amy Pierce's story builds to this one final, terrifying night. A night that explains exactly why that land is still dead to this very day.
Amy watched as the thing, the color, finally gathered its strength. It started pouring out of the well, this visible, indescribable stream of light that just drained the life from everything it touched. The trees, the house, what was left of the gardeners, before launching itself back into the stars. For just a second, it seemed like the nightmare was over. It was gone. But then, just as the main part of it vanished, Amy saw a tiny spark,
A single drop of this horror fall from the sky and splash right back into the well. The thing was gone, but its seed was still there.
And this is where the past crashes right into the present. This is why our surveyor quits his job in absolute terror. He realizes that the cursed ground, that blasted heath with its poisoned well, is about to become completely submerged, to become the basin for the new water supply for the entire city of Arkham. The horror wasn't contained. It wasn't destroyed. It was about to be diluted and piped into thousands of homes. The story isn't just about what happened to one family anymore. It's about what's going to happen next, when an entire city starts drinking water that's been touched by something from out of space.